Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of Burnside Council, opening at 7 p.m. We are still spaced appropriately according to COVID restrictions in the chamber, and unfortunately that does mean that we cannot have the gallery inside this room because of lack of space, but we welcome you to the foyer and to hopefully you all have a seat that you can sit in. If there are not enough seats, we can organise, I'm sure, additional seats for you. Public question time has returned and it is included in the agenda, but I'm not aware of any questions tonight. I remind you of our new meeting procedures and the new warning bell at 2 minutes and a longer warning bell at 3 when I encourage you to complete your debate. I remind you too about the use of one question at a time. Now please stand for the acknowledgements. We acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We also pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We pray for understanding and guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. In the case of an emergency, an alarm will sound and then please follow the directions of the staff. I remind you that all council meetings are live streamed through the council's website and a copy of the agenda is available by downloading from this website. Members, please raise your hand to indicate that you wish to speak and use your microphones when speaking and remember to switch them off when you finish. I will also ask you to turn off your mobile phones or place them on silent during the meeting. We have no apologies. We have no leave of absence. Is there anyone who wishes to declare a matter of interest? Yes, Councillor Lemon.
I'll declare an interest in two matters. One is the Glenunga International High School parking. I live on a strange street. I do not, so do another 500 people. I don't see that as a conflict, but I think it's important that I let people know. And the other is that I was once, 7 years ago, an employee of the ambulance service, and that is in the motions on notice. Again, I do not have a conflict. I have not had anything to do with that organisation since I left it in 2017.
So, is this on, is it?
It will be the second, and if you can just microphone on. I just realised I didn't have my microphone on. All you need to do is state your name and your suburb that you live in, okay?
Yeah, I'm Brian Keller from Eastwood. Is that on? Yeah, Brian Keller from Eastwood. First of all, I'd like to thank Her Worship and members of Council for giving us the opportunity to speak on this matter of Truss Lane. Originally we had 3 people going to speak, but unfortunately there's only the 2 of us now. I intend to just talk briefly about the history of Truss Lane, what's happened up till now. It's all a little bit vague because Horteville House was the centre of the land down there, and we always thought that the start of Birkin Street, the gum trees that are at the back there, were part of a driveway into Horteville House. We're not sure about that, but anyhow, as the years went by, the land was sold and developed, and there was a lane put through which was actually the night cart lane, what we all used to call the Dunny Lane. Now they are all around the inner suburbs. We've got them in Rose Park, in Dulwich, we've got them down in Parkside, and in Horteville Terrace there's also one at the back of the people on the other side to us. Now those roads, those Dunny lanes, were never meant to be through roads. They weren't then and they're not now. So it's rather surprising that this sort of thing has come up for the road to be open. What happened then was that it was all built on, we had the Dunny Lane there, and then the next thing, in 1962, it's built there, and a lot of the houses in Horteville Terrace were knocked down for a car park. So for several years there wasn't much activity in what became Truss Lane. When the electricity trust went, there was the development which most of us who are concerned live in. We all exit an entrant from what's known as Truss Lane because we haven't got driveways at the front. Now, as it was when we moved in there, it was pretty hopeless, that lane. It was a bit of a mess. It was bitumised to a degree, but it was full of potholes which were filled. And over the time we were there at the start, it became a mad speedway for people cutting through from Fullerton Road as a shortcut. And so we all started to get a bit concerned about it, and we had several meetings with a couple of excellent councillors that we had that supported us to the hilt. And we took a petition to council to get something done about it. And that's why it's amazing to think that I was here 20 years ago doing the same old bit then, and here I am again saying the same stuff. But we also had trouble with undesirables in the lane because we've got the housing trust at the back of us, and that's been an ongoing concern. The place wasn't lit, and the trust building had no lights in it then because it was empty. So council decided to upgrade the road, put lights in and close the lane off, which suited everybody. So for the last nearly 20 years it's been shut. There's been no complaints from anybody. The businesses have all been happy, and so have we. And of course what's happened is the building in Burke Street, they decided to reopen the lane. Now we've got a very good and excellent councillor in Councillor Julian, and he has kept us informed right through. We've been fully aware of everything that's going on. He's advised us when it's going to open and when it's going to close, and so it went. Of course, the building finished, and council advised us that it was going to be closed again, which everybody was delighted with. And lo and behold, we get news 2 weeks ago that it was going to be closed completely. Now, we find this rather hard to understand because we've got a councillor who supported us. We've got another councillor, Councillor Lemon, who obviously, well, not obviously, we don't know why, objected to it, put through a motion at the last minute without advising anyone. None of the ratepayers knew. We weren't told on the day that it was going to happen. Our councillor for the ward wasn't told, and the next thing we know, it's going to be closed. Now, can I sort of give a personal bit in here? I've got a fair knowledge of local government, and particularly Burnside Council. I was on the management team here for 20 years. I was the accountant, and then I finished up as Deputy CEO. So I've got a fair idea of how Burnside ticks. What's that, Bill, for me to finish?
Yes, it is.
Oh, God, can I have a couple more minutes?
No, you'll need to stop now, Mr. Corlett, and hopefully your second deputy
just finish what you did?
You have got some questions that we've got 5 deputations, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, can I just say, give a final thing? Just about half a minute.
It's up to the members.
Half a minute.
Yes.
Okay, so the important part is everything worked well with no complaints from residents or businesses. So what are the reasons that Councillor Lemon, who we expected to look after our interest in this matter, but quietly ignored a previous decision of council, the advice of staff and wishes...
Excuse me, but it's not appropriate for you to make comments about the elected member. The focus is actually on the lane. So if you could please just... if you could just focus your comments on the lane.
We want to know why Councillor Lemon didn't advise us, why we weren't told the reason.
Yeah, I think that's enough.
Okay?
Right, thank you very much. Now, is there anyone who wishes to ask a question of Mr Caller? Councillor Henschke.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you. Now, that construction, that new project, those developers are quite happy to close the lane?
What, with the Birkin Street? Yes, doesn't affect them.
Doesn't affect them at all?
So
Doesn't affect them at all.
Thank you.
Does the resident know, have spoken to the developer?
There's parking...
Hang on.
There's parking at the back there, and that's where we have some problems, because now that they can go through, they all stream across Birkin Street and whiz on up the line. So
All right.
Thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
No, I just wanted to use the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question of... All right, thank you.
Sorry, I'm going back to Councillor Henschke's question. You've said that you've spoken to the developer.
No, I haven't spoken to the developer.
So you don't know. So when Councillor Henschke asked you, was the developer okay with it? Your answer was, I don't know.
No, don't know.
Okay, you don't know.
But I've got no reason to think otherwise, because at the new construction there, that they don't use the lane. They'll never use the lane.
But you don't know what the developer. Okay. Can I have another question?
Unless there's anyone else who wishes to ask one.
There was a survey done of the residents, and the majority came back to say that they would prefer the laneway to remain open. How would you? Sorry, if I can just finish my question. What do you think about? What do you think the people who would prefer the laneway to remain open? What would they be saying tonight?
The bulk of people that live on Hauteville Terrace, I would say probably 95% of them want it to remain closed. The problem is that the apartment block, which doesn't even open onto Truss Lane, their traffic goes through onto Green Hill Road. They have got over 100 votes. I mean, well, how many have they got?
They didn't all vote.
I know they didn't vote, but they were entitled to. We were entitled to one.
No, I don't think we need to have a debate about it. The issue is that we don't have numbers right in front of us right now. That we can. You've got some numbers there. Okay. Some of you got the report in front, so you can see the numbers anyway. All right.
So
thank you.
You'll agree then, Councillor, that the majority of people that are affected 24/7, how do you work that out?
Anyway, look, it isn't a debate. The deputy has come to provide some information. You can ask questions of the deputy, and then that is it. No discussion, no debate. It is just question and answer, please. Thank you. Now, is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question of Mr. Caller? No one? All right, then thank you, Mr. Caller, for coming in and sharing your comments and your views. Now we have Ms. Higginson. So, Ms. Higginson, just state your name and suburb, and then we'll start timing once you've got through that. Thank you.
So, Stacey Higginson from Eastwood, and thank you very much for having me. Forgive me for reading, but I'm trying to stick to the time, mindful of that, obviously. So, the motion put forth regarding Truss Lane appears to be against the results of community consultation and notifications, and I would like to address that along with some very serious safety concerns. The catalyst for all of this was the construction of 210 Green Hill Road, of which we were first notified on the 28th of January 2020 by letter indicating there would be a requirement to close off Birkin Street from February to October and a completion date of the project of December the same year. Following the closure of Birkin Street and without consultation or notice, the eastern end of Trust Lane, which had been closed due to safety concerns and without issue for the preceding 20 years, was opened. Along with others, I contacted council and spoke with David Hayes. He advised the opening was requested by the ambulance service, citing access requirements for ambulances, and was a temporary measure to be used in an easterly direction only until Birkin Street was open again. The site on Green Hill Road is the SA Ambulance head office and contact centre, not an ambulance depot. In 20 years, we've not heard or seen an ambulance make a hasty exit from this location, nor in the time since Trust Lane was reopened. If this were a genuine issue, you'd think it would have been lobbied over the last 20 years as the lane was closed. Over the next 12 months or so, residents were in constant contact with both David Hayes and Sean Smith to express various safety concerns, some of which resulted in police involvement. During these conversations, we were reassured the opening at the eastern end was temporary and efforts were made to alleviate some of the safety issues in the interim. For those unfamiliar, the lane runs east-west with a turn in the middle where it goes around the back corner of the Air Apartments. The western end spans several hundred metres from Birkin Street toward the west-facing wall of the apartment building, and the eastern end along the back of the apartments and up to Fullerton Road. The western end at 3.9 metres across is simply not wide enough for two cars to pass and requires vehicles to pull over and stop in private driveways and car parks to allow another through. A standard single road lane is 3.5 metres. The eastern end is 5.6 metres from the curb to the drainage culvert, which is in place owing to the area being flood prone. Over the culvert is a series of ramps and dips for driveway access and property stormwater drainage. Residents need to reverse out of their garages and can only see once their vehicle has entered the lane. There is no footpath or marking for pedestrians or cyclists, despite the lane being very much a shared use area. We were surprised to receive a letter in October requesting feedback on whether the lane should stay open to exiting traffic only or be reclosed. Having been repeatedly assured it was a temporary situation, I will make clear that at no point was it ever mentioned there was a consideration to open up to two-way traffic at the eastern end. A short time later, we were notified council had received a very good response rate to the consultation and after reviewing feedback would reclose the lane. Birkin Street opened in December, but Trust Lane was not reclosed. Concerned, I contacted Sean Smith at the council and received an email stating council did not plan to undertake any further consultation on this issue and that they would be reinstating the closure later in January 2021 as depot resources permitted. After a further few weeks, we called again and were advised over the phone that the issue was to go before council, meaning it came before council without any correspondence after the letter confirming reclosure. We contacted Councillor Lemon as our ward member, who is documented on several occasions as being strongly opposed to cut-through traffic, and we assumed this issue would be aligned with that belief. Instead, we were met with short, generic responses. Alarmed by a lack of acknowledgement or any meaningful communication, we found the reason for this may be the direct relationship, and I apologise, I put this in before it was mentioned, the relationship with the ambulance service, who we understand to be a former employer. It would seem
You've heard that. You'll
Yes,
stop this for a
I
moment.
apologise because I'm reading it out. and
That's
I wasn't-
okay. Just
thank
leave
you.
that section out. Thank you.
Thank you. So, further, it would seem that this was brought before council as a matter of convenience for few at the expense of safety for many. The greatest safety concern is the increase in traffic trying to exit Trust Lane onto Fullerton Road, which is approximately 50 metres from the major intersection of Green Hill and Fullerton. There is limited visibility because the building on the corner is very close to the road and cars are accelerating to catch the lights. Cars are also trying to clamber across 3 lanes of traffic from this point so they can turn right up Green Hill Road, despite the much safer option of taking Hortville Terrace. There are enormous keep clear markings across Fullerton Road at the junction of Hortville and only 2 lanes to cross, and has 4 times the visibility down Fullerton Road than the Trust Lane exit. I will wrap up by noting that at no time was two-way access mentioned until the council meeting on the 9th of March, and that motion was altered as late as 3 p.m. that same day. This leaves us feeling it was presented in this way to try and push it through as a matter of favour perhaps, or at the very least to tie it up with council in the hope that the opposition would be deterred. If the lane remains open whilst it's before council, it will need urgent attention to address safety issues, particularly as the new building is not yet tenanted, and with its 169 on-site car parks added to the mix will only amplify the issues. So if you voted against reclosure of Trust Lane, I would ask you to reconsider, giving careful consideration to the safety issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Higginson. Now, is there anyone who wishes to ask a question? Not get involved in a debate, but just ask a question. Councillor Piggott.
You mentioned the width of the road.
Yes.
Could you just repeat that for me in terms of the statistic you gave?
Yep.
In terms
So
of the width of the road?
we've measured in several spots. We've been generous. The western end is between 3.6 and about 3.9. So I've said 3.9 at the western end and 5.6 at the eastern end.
Thank you. Cheers.
I do have, and I'm sorry these weren't presented before, but photographs of cars trying to pass in that lane, which you're welcome to.
If you'd like to give them to Mrs Spearman there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone who wishes to ask a question? Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Thank you for coming. So, does your property border on Hopeville and Truss Lane?
Yes.
Right.
So, and we don't have a driveway at the front.
Right, so you reverse out onto Truss Lane.
Exactly.
Sorry if I'm asking more than one.
Yep. So double garages, we don't have a way to angle across. We must back straight out.
Right, and you would then either go down and exit, go Birkin onto Greenhill,
Yep.
or go around onto Hopeville?
Yes.
Because what I don't understand is if you could go down Hopeville and that corner's not blocked off, if I was going to rat run through, I'd just go down there. I wouldn't bother going through Truss Lane.
No, because it's further back. So it's further back from the intersection. So people aren't rat run, they haven't generally been. And keep in mind where we're situated, we are heavily banked with parked cars every day of the week. So it's not a rat run because people are slowing down to park cars potentially. It's not really a rat run kind of street.
Right.
It's worked very well with people going through round the back just to, go to the western end car parks for businesses for 20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question? No? All right, thank you very much, Ms Higginson, for coming along and sharing your concerns. Now we have Mr Chris Bassett about the Dulwich Community Centre. Thank you, Mr Bassett. You've heard, just state your name and suburb and then off you go.
Chris Bassett, live in Kensington Park. Thank you for this opportunity. I represent the committee that makes up the Friends of the Dulwich Community Centre. This committee seeks to advocate for and help safeguard the interests of existing and future users who wish to use the centre for approved community activities. We also would like to remind councillors that some 500 people signed a petition demonstrating strong support for keeping the centre. The committee supports in principle the option considered by council which involves retention of the centre in appropriate, properly compliant form with respect to structural integrity, electrical, fire and plumbing infrastructure, toilets, disabled access and other facilities. We do not, however, support the suggested renovation costs as outlined in the latest report. You will have heard a lot about the centre over recent times, and for some of you the centre has been a topic of discussion and debate for many years. You will have heard from some of us and listened to our pleas for something to be done to make the centre better able to provide the facilities needed by the community members who use it. As community leaders, you will recognise the importance of the provision of suitable spaces for the activities undertaken in the centre. You will know that the activities offered are diverse and involve participants both young and old. You will also be aware that participants come from all parts of Burnside, not just Dulwich, making the centre important to more than just the residents of Dulwich. Currently, the largest number of regular participants are those over 50 who attend Strength for Life classes. The centre offers 21 one-hour classes, facilitated by trained and experienced personnel. And you'll hear more about this from Lynette later. Several other groups use the centre. These include a karate club, the Theatre Bugs, a children's drama group, and a Spanish dancing group. There is also a small office which is rented out. The toilets, small kitchen, 2 halls and other spaces could be used more effectively by other community groups if it were suitably renovated. Most of you have visited the centre and have seen the poor state it is in, and are also aware of the efforts of the Friends of Dulwich Community Centre and other groups before to request the building be brought up to the standard expected for a council-owned and operated facility. After several years of little action, the council is again considering how best to manage the situation. Recently, council staff put forward some options, and these suggestions included undertaking a renovation of the facility with an estimated cost of up to $1.7 million, a complete demolition to make way for a pocket park and playground, the sale of the property with funds to be used by council as appropriate. These and similar suggestions were put forward in previous community surveys which council organised over the last few years. These surveys achieved no consensus and led to further inaction from council with regard to the centre's future. There is now a proposal for yet another survey. The Friends of Dulwich Community Centre Committee suggests this too may not provide a definitive result. Returning to the issue of the building itself, advice from an independent expert is that the building can be renovated to a more than acceptable standard with minimal outlay to undertake plumbing work, repairs to walls and ceilings, the provision of up-to-date toilet facilities, and importantly, accessibility for all. The suggested cost, $300,000. This lower cost renovation would involve a relatively short period of convenience for the current users. The Friends of Dulwich Community Centre would be keen to see such a low-cost option ultimately adopted, but we need assurance that all groups currently using the DCC will be found suitable spaces for their activities to continue in the meantime. We urge councillors to support the renovation of the centre for a more reasonable cost as a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bassett. Is there anyone who wishes to ask a question? Councillor Corney.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mr. Bassett, for coming in and making a deputation. I suppose my question is, knowing local government as it is, $300,000 in building and construction doesn't get you very far. Would you be okay with perhaps double that sort of amount? Or I just know that every time we go out to some sort of consultant or anything, it's usually double the price that we think it is. So I just wondered what your absolute upper limit might be.
I don't think we have an upper limit. It's just that we really want a reasonable fix-up, and it doesn't have to be a palace.
Councillor Henschke.
Good evening. Thank you, Chris. Now, parking has been one of those sticking points with this place. Now, can we encourage people to walk there, ride their bikes?
See no reason why not. At the moment, there doesn't seem to be a big issue, although they're doing paving on the side of Union Street, so that does make it a little bit more difficult. But people find spaces down the other streets and walk there. We haven't had, as far as I know, we haven't had any complaints from the people who live in the street.
Thank you.
Councillor Piggott.
Yep, thanks for coming in. The report talks about the fact that you're unable to run, or the centre's unable to run or weekends or weekend evenings. It's limited hours. I think I read the fact that you can't actually do anything outside the building, presumably because of neighbours and parking or whatever. Can you confirm that? Is that the situation?
I don't have any idea. There are a couple of groups that use the centre at the weekend, but I don't think there's any night use. But I'm not sure.
Well, that concurs with the report. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
There probably used to be. I don't know that there is any more.
Yep.
There's a Spanish dance group, but I think they're in the afternoon.
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you for your deputation. I guess the report and decision that's in front of us this evening is about going out to consultation. Again, I appreciate that you've been down this path, but given that the results weren't conclusive, obviously you're in favour of renovating, but I guess if you could just be really, give us an insight into what you think the community would want as those potential 3 options to be consulted on.
My initial reaction is that when they see the figure of potentially 1.7, that's just going to be laughed at, basically. I don't think that is required at all. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a builder, but to me, the sort of figures that we've been given so far would make it livable and usable as it is without just making the building bigger or, excuse me, or anything like that. But as I said, I'm not an expert on that.
Sorry, if I could just follow up. So
Yeah.
ultimately though, we can't go to the community with just repair. We need to go with a range of different options. So obviously the report gave elected members a number to choose from. If you were going to sit in my seat and vote, what would you throw out as the other two options for the community to consider?
Well, they're already in the report that was provided. I think they're there, but my personal feeling is that a pocket park in that space is not an ideal thing to have. It's just not an appropriate space to have it. And selling the place and getting some money, okay, that would be good for the council, but it doesn't really satisfy any of the programs that are going on there at the moment.
Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Worship. Mr Bassett, thank you for coming in tonight. Look, I think a bit of the difference between the costings we're talking about, obviously, I think our administration is proposing to do more than just, band-aid it. Is actually looking to, well, if we're going to fix it up, let's make it as good as we can possibly make it and give it as much potential use as possible. But I am particularly interested from the Friends of the Centre organisation, the other venues that we have available for hire, the Civic Centre, Glenunga Hub, have the tenants of the Dullet Centre cast any opinions on relocating to those
not
spots
as far as I
at
know,
all and
no.
their suitability?
No. I mean, the Dulwich community, the hub, we hear was meant to have facilities for Strength for Life, for example, but there's no storage there, so you can't use it. The hub is used quite frequently, obviously, by lots of different groups. I don't know anything about the other areas that you were talking about. The men's shed would not be a suitable place.
I think Mr Bassett said 21 sessions a week of hour sessions is a very comprehensive
right.
use of the space existing now.
That's right, yeah.
Councillor Davis.
It's kind of along those lines again. I mean, as a councillor, I'm going to have to take the figure of 1.7 as the proper figure. In terms of what the alternatives would be, something like Glenunga Hub is worth $5 million. And recently this council has looked at a proposal in Kensington Gardens Reserve for an upgrade of the clubs there, which would actually contain a specific purpose-built gym, which would be available for a much wider period of time. Have the Friends of Dulwich Community Centre looked at that proposal and have you spoken about?
We haven't been given any ideas about that at all.
Okay, all right, sure. Thank you.
Right, is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question? All right, well, thank you very much, Mr Bassett, for coming in and representing the Friends.
Thanks very much.
And now I'll call upon Ms Lynette Yeomans, who is going to speak on behalf of the users of the 21 sessions a week. Thank you. You know the process now, Ms Yeomans, don't you? 5 minutes, 4-minute warning bell, and then answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, elected members.
Just hold your microphone closer, that's better. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor, elected members. This deputation covers the City of Burnside's Strength for Life program, why the program matters and needs an appropriate home, and thirdly, a constructive way forward. Within the Burnside Council area, there are a growing number of aged people, often from a professional background, who are knowledgeable and well educated about their health and well-being. Medical advice stresses the importance of strength or resistance training, especially for those over 50, to counteract muscle loss as we age. And this is what Burnside Council's COTA, Strength for Life program, provides, and the reason it is so successful. Burnside Council is to be congratulated for its ongoing support of the Strength for Life program going back to 2012. It is now the second largest in the state. The program, run by accredited trainers, supports participants with individualised strength training designed to promote physical fitness, balance and mobility, the management of weight and many chronic conditions, sharpened thinking skills, increased well-being, personal independence and social connectiveness, enabling many residents to remain in their own homes for longer. Council's Strength for Life program provides a relaxed, discreet environment that seniors feel comfortable about visiting and using in preference to other public shared space gyms. There's one story among many that highlights the powerful outcomes delivered by the Strength for Life program. Anne, a long-time participant in the program, was diagnosed with cancer in 2018, but kept coming to classes. She maintained her fitness and stayed connected to friends at Strength for Life. In her own words, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, my Strength for Life classes actually became my immediate strength for life. They were a key part of my journey, both physically and mentally. Staying active during cancer treatment helped manage its side effects, sped up recovery and enhanced my quality of life. It even improved how I responded to treatment. The program caters for everyone over 50, not just retired elderly ratepayers, and it has a growing emphasis on cultural inclusion and diversity too. COTA is now committed to increasing the number of people from culturally diverse backgrounds and has very recently appointed a cultural diversity officer. Those of us who have been attending Strength for Life classes for years are passionate advocates for Burnside Council's Strength for Life program and its need for an appropriate home. The Strength for Life program remains part of the ongoing 10-year saga of Council's plans for the Dulwich Community Centre. The Strength for Life program and the Dulwich Community Centre became automatically linked due, it's fair to say, to oversights by Council when designing and fitting out the hub. The hub was originally intended to provide a purpose-built home for the Strength for Life program. Regrettably, when completed, it proved unsuitable for Strength for Life. The Dulwich Community Centre, dilapidated and under-maintained, serves to accommodate the Strength for Life program, but is far from ideal. Local parking constraints and noise management restrict its opening hours. There are currently around 220 Strength for Life participants who attend sessions each week at the Dulwich Community Centre. That's about 10,500 participants annually. Although these are impressive numbers, they should be much higher, as too many remain on a growing waiting list. Quite apart from wider questions about the future of the Dulwich Community Centre, the Strength for Life program has clearly outgrown its home there. There is a powerful case for Council to establish a more suitable and permanent home for this award-winning program, one where its growth and success is not seriously constrained. Encouragingly, a promising option has been identified and is being assessed consultatively. It has promise of not only allowing additional classes to cater for those on the waiting list, but also permitting out-of-hours classes for those who are keen to attend them after work. Thank you.
May I ask my first question,
Yes.
since I haven't seen any hands up yet? One of the constraints, I believe, is the fact that you have pieces of equipment around the outside of the hall that are fixed pieces for strength exercise.
Well,
so that
they're heavy, so you wouldn't want to really move them around, and certainly the trainers wouldn't be able to move them in and out for every class.
I just wanted people to understand the constraints, that's all. Whereas in a gymnasium, those pieces of equipment would be fixed and stationary there all the time. You do attempt to do that for the Strength for Life classes, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, they do remain in place.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Lemon.
Thank you. How many people are on the waiting list?
I'm not sure, but I've been told they could take up to about 30 classes, from the 21 increase it to 30 almost overnight, if we were able to increase the number of classes, but we're restricted because of the hours of opening at the centre and other restraints, yeah.
So if I can...
Yes, go ahead.
So how many, you did say, and I've forgotten, how many people go there now?
About 220 per week.
For 21 classes?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's fit, COVID and COTA only allow 15 per class, yeah.
And COTA is the Council of the Aged, and just in case anybody doesn't understand the acronym. Okay. All right, is there anyone? Thank you, Councillor Turner.
Thank you for coming in. I'd like to enrol actually, but I'll be on the waiting list. Okay, we'll go together. Is it true that that wooden floor is especially beneficial for the strength of life? Does that make a difference?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, the wooden floor at the back there.
Yes.
It's been said that that's really beneficial for people exercising rather than hard floors elsewhere.
Yeah, well, it is, because, I mean, knees and things benefit from when we're bouncing around and doing energetic things, and so a timber floor. I believe the floor at the Dullet Community Centre is not a sprung floor, but it is a timber floor, so you have some give in it compared to a concrete floor.
So you'd be in favour of keeping that floor, that sprung or
Well, I'd
semi-sprung?
be in favour of a floor of that particular sort, or I believe you could put rubberised matting and stuff on other floor surfaces to get a similar effect where you get a bit of cushioning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Jones.
Lynn, thank you for coming. If we renovated the centre and properly sandproofed it and double glazed it, there wouldn't be a noise problem, would there? We could have 30 classes a week.
I imagine so. I mean, I hadn't actually, thought about that.
As they provided you can get enough instructors.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Davis.
It seems to me like from your deputation that you have a home at Dulwich, but you're not really happy and you can't expand. I asked this of the previous speaker, and I did speak with your state director for Strength for Life about the project at Kensington Gardens Reserve that this council has approved. Have you had a chance to have a look at that project at all?
No, I haven't, but there is another venue that's been identified by council only in the last month or so that seems quite promising, that they're actually working with a trainer to identify whether that space would be suitable, and it wouldn't mean much alteration.
And if that was the case, that you could, I mean, the way that you speak about it, it's the program that's most important, and where that's delivered. I mean, if you could have moved into the hub, that would have been great.
Yeah. Well, that was meant to be our purpose-built place. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question? Councillor Henschke.
I'm told it's within the Civic Centre. Yes.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question? Otherwise, I'll thank you. Sorry, was there someone over there? Was there a hand over there? Oh, okay. Thank you. Look, thank you very much, Lynn, for coming in, and you certainly presented your case particularly well.
Thank you.
My husband's an ex-member of Strength for Life, but he goes to a gym, and I understand what you said earlier. When you have a place that is just yours, when you go to a gym where they have the Strength for Life classes, you're actually also involved with a whole lot of young people who want you to move faster. And you can't, and who wait for the machinery and sometimes tally on it too. So I do understand the need for a place that you can call home. Thank you. Now we have one more deputation, and that is from Mr. James Partington of Beaumont. On a completely different topic. It is actually one of the budget bids that we'll be discussing later. So thank you, Mr. Partington.
Thank you. My name's James Partington from Beaumont. Hello, Mayor Monceau, councillors and staff. Thanks for the opportunity to make this deputation. As I said, my name is James Partington. I live in Beaumont with my wife and 3 young children, and I'm not a tennis coach. Pardon me. I want to talk to you about a proposal to create a small park by improving the existing open space on the corner of Bonneview Avenue and Lascelles Avenue, Beaumont. The site I'm referring to is a small triangular-shaped parcel of land at the corner of Bonneview Avenue and Lascelles Avenue, Beaumont. Currently, it's designated as a verge. It's currently covered in weeds with no real nice grass and has a random mix of small, rather unattractive trees. It's used from time to time by children to play. I've seen picnic rugs occasionally, and hikers sometimes stop to rest there, but generally it's a bit of an eyesore. The proposal Our proposal is for the council to improve the land and create a small park. This would involve firstly planting some nice grass and maybe planting some trees, adding a park bench, a drinking fountain, and possibly some small play equipment. The benefits, of this, the 4 reasons I think council should allocate funding to this proposal are it benefits the community, it's good for the environment, it's a good location, and it already has strong community support. So I'll talk to each of those. First, the community. A small park would benefit the community in the same way all parks do, as a place for locals to meet with their kids and grandkids, read a book, kick a ball, that sort of thing. There are more and more young families moving into the area, so it'd be great to have a place nearby to meet other local families or take kids when going for a walk. There are also lots of grandparents in the area that would utilise the park in the same way. It would also be a great resting spot for the many hikers who make their way up our street on their way to Mount Osmond to utilise the walking trails there, stop, have a rest, fill up their drink bottle, that kind of thing. The environment. The proposal is good for the environment as it's an opportunity to plant trees and grass which have a cooling effect. It helps to offset the removal of trees that is occurring due to the subdivision in the area, and it's an opportunity to green the streets in line with the council's strategic vision. Thirdly, the location is right. The location for the park is good. There are no parks in the immediate area, with the next closest park being a 25-minute walk uphill, which is not great when you've got young children. The site is there. It's basically ready to go, with very little needing to be done to make a huge improvement. So it's good bang for buck. Lastly, it already has strong support. The proposal has strong support from the surrounding residents. At the beginning of last year, my wife and I did a letterbox drop of the surrounding streets to gauge whether there would be community support. It turns out another family was already in discussions with councillors Harvey Jones and Paul Hubel about this exact proposal. Of approximately 30 homes that we made the letterbox drop to, at least 20 homes made the effort to call or email us with their support. I really doubt anyone would disapprove of the proposal, as there really is no downside. So in summary, the proposal for this small park benefits the community, it benefits the environment, the location is right, and it already has strong support. So I hope the council will consider allocating funding to make our proposal a reality.
Thank you, Mr Partington. Is there anyone who wishes to ask a question? Councillor Davey.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thanks very much for coming along tonight. I absolutely agree with you and support the proposal. I just wondered how it, because I haven't been to that area for quite a while, how it got to that state. Did it, were there trees there before, or was there a house there that was demolished?
I don't believe it's ever been a house. I think it's always been a verge because of the angles of the roads intersecting. It was never subdivided, or it was never divided and allocated a sort of housing plot in that way. And we've been there 6 years. It's been, sort of a mess of weeds for that long. The council comes and mows it probably every couple of weeks, but it's not super attractive. Yeah.
Councillor Dawes.
I know James Partington, by the way, and you're not him. But I thought you were Ben Cameron when you came in, to be honest. He's from the Advertiser. So I'm glad I didn't say Ben, because you would have said, who are you? Yes. Now, I noticed in the budget bids, it is currently a road reserve. So
I believe that's correct.
To be converted to community land.
Correct.
There's a cost involved with that.
Correct.
My question is, and we've got a photo of it on our tables tonight, how big is that piece of land in square metres?
I did a quick measure just using an online app, and it's about 750 square metres, I believe.
So it's quite a large piece of.
It's a reasonable size, but once you take the distance away from the road and that sort of thing, it shrinks it down a little bit. But yeah, it's a reasonable size of land.
And this might be a question for administration, but there's nothing underneath that like a huge pipeline or something like that. It's just an open piece of land.
I believe so, yep.
Sorry for hilarity. Councillor Cornish.
Thanks for coming in and doing your deputation. Just wondered whether or not you're aware of the Fund Our Neighbourhood project, which is a community grants program that's currently open with applications closing on the 9th of April.
Yep, I intended to make an application to that as well, but I believe that's for things like drinking fountains, park benches, that sort of thing. So I don't think that would cover converting it to community land and adding turf and trees and that sort of thing, which I think might be a little bit more expensive than that program, but I could be wrong.
Yep, okay, thanks.
It's also a good idea to keep in mind for next year.
Okay.
Assuming, of course, that this is successful,
yep.
To add pieces gradually to it as it becomes more and more used and popular is a great idea to have for a vision. Yep. Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you for coming in. Do you envisage a fence around that? Because I had a look at it and you talk about kids kicking balls. It's bounded by roads, and a tubular fence or something like that would actually have to be there at some stage, some part of it, so that the kids could be safe.
I think you could do it using a fence or planting, so garden beds, that sort of thing, just to stop kids running onto the road. Small hedge, something like that would also suffice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question? Right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Pinington. Nice to see you again.
Thank you, you too.
The wrong James. Councillor Carbone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Given that we have a large number of people in our public gallery this evening, many of them are upset and are very eager to hear the debate tonight regarding Truss Lane and Dulwich Community Centre. They are elderly. They have come specifically to hear the debate. I move that we move immediately to the items regarding Truss Lane and the Dulwich Community Centre.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Piggott, you're seconding? All right, then I'll open the debate. Those who are in favour, please raise your hands. Right, thank you. Only concern, and I need to make you aware of this, is that, excuse me, can I just, oh sorry, I didn't get the against. Apologies, those against. Well, that's what I'm about. Major concern is, and you have just beaten me to it, because my suggestion was going to be that we moved into confidential and did the budget. The reason for that is, and I absolutely respect all those people who are out there in the gallery, but my concern is that we do have to get the budget done tonight. So be prepared for a very late meeting that was likely to go beyond 10:30, because the budget must be done tonight. It has to go to the audit committee within 2 weeks. And that is absolutely essential if we're going to get this budget through this year. So all I'm saying is you've all agreed to it, so keep your discussion to a minimum and be aware of the fact that we must get the budget done tonight. You have voted. I'm not trying to dissuade you. And I do appreciate that you are supporting the people who are out there in the gallery. Now, because I also don't want to set any kind of precedent in relation to this. So the first one we're going to look at is the Dulwich Community Centre, and then we will look at Truss Lane. So you are wanting to move or to withdraw that for discussion. So Councillor Henschke, seconded. What's that? What have we done wrong? I'm lost. Yeah. Well, I said we'd move to Dulwich Avenue, and Councillor Henschke put forward her hand to move.
Truss Lane, Dulwich.
Yeah, both.
So I don't know why we're calling it out.
I was going to call as the next. I was just going to go with Dulwich because it was the next one on the agenda. Oh, you want it in that order? I apologise. I didn't realise it needed the order in which the motion has been stated. Okay, so Truss Lane is first. Councillor Carbone.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I move in accordance with what is in the agenda. I thank you for considering this rescission motion. I do apologise in advance that I did not speak well enough at our last meeting regarding this agenda item, as I was not prepared and not feeling well. So for that, I do apologise. 20 years ago, in this very chamber, elected members heard from residents in Eastwood, some residents of whom are here again tonight, as we've heard, about the need to close off Truss Lane. In essence, it was to stop cut-through traffic and allow residents who have rear access the ability to back out safely. Truss Lane is essentially an extension of their shared driveways. It is small, it is narrow, it has a blind bend, and as we've heard tonight, it was never intended to be a road as we know it. 20 years ago, our predecessors wisely decided to make Truss Lane a dead end, which would allow the residents to back out and enter and exit Truss Lane safely. In 20 years, not a single complaint, no petition, no lobby, no movement of any kind. The residents in the whole of those 20 years have been happy. Last year, as a show of community support, the residents embraced their neighbours in the next street to allow the temporary reopening of Truss Lane during the redevelopment of the Bridgestone building. This council undertook a promise that this would be temporary and that the promise made in 2002 would ultimately still be honoured. We undertook a survey to ensure that the feeling amongst residents was still the same, and it was. The vast majority of residents who exclusively rely on Truss Lane as their primary access point were in favour of closing the lane. Some residents, yes, I agree, did vote to keep it open. But these residents have access to their garages from other roads. So it's not an even playing field. While opening the lane would be a bonus for some, it would be at the detriment and the expense of others. And that is un-Australian. The gains to open the lane would be minimal, while the costs would be, for some, severe. 20 years later, the issues remain the same. If anything, they are worse. Traffic volume is worse. Cut-through traffic is worse. The need for safety is ever more important. The residents are extremely clear in their view. They want what they were given 20 years ago, and they want what they were promised 1 year ago. We need to honour our commitment. We need to restore trust in Truss Lane.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Piggott, to speak now or withhold? Councillor Davis.
I'll speak against the motion. We had two deputations tonight, and Councillor Carbone raised two issues. One was cut-through traffic and one was the ability to back out of their driveway safely. Residents themselves say that there is not an issue with cut-through traffic. So that leaves the ability to back out safely. If you have a look, that is what one of the deputations said today, and that was made very clear.
Excuse me.
What they said.
Sorry, I do have to ask the gallery to respect. You may not agree with the comments, but please remain silent. All right? Otherwise, the debate will become out of control, and I do not wish that to happen. We have to show respect for everybody who is in this room and in the gallery as well. I appreciate that you're passionate about it, but please remain silent. You can disagree, but you can disagree quietly.
Councillor Carbone also said tonight that it would be un-Australian to disadvantage some, or to advantage some at the expense of others, and I agree with him on that point. And I think that the people who we need to think about are the people who live the next lane over in Hortfield Terrace. And if you have a look at the report that we received last meeting, and if you have a look at the respondents of the residents on Hortfield Terrace on one side versus the other, I believe that they're the residents who would be adversely affected. And when we talk about cut-through traffic, essentially what you're doing is if there is cut-through traffic, and the gallery is screaming at me that there is, what you're doing is that you're relocating it to Hortville Terrace, and you are penalising those residents in favour of those on Trust Lane. Now, in my ward, I understand these photos are not dissimilar to my ward. There are streets, Pepper Street is a perfect example. Even Councillor Piggott and I have issues there. The way to deal with that, I think, is through traffic management. And I noticed it's a no stopping zone where that particular photo was taken as well. So to my mind, we need to determine, looking at what the consultation says, it's actually true that a majority of the people who responded to that survey were in favour of keeping it open. And when we look at my role as a councillor, it's to represent. And it is to represent all of the residents. And I don't think that we have heard both sides put equally. And I think that there has been a lot that we haven't heard about from the reasons why they would like it open. And I believe that the residents of Hortville Terrace should also be respected as well. So for that reason, and we considered this at the last council meeting, to my mind there has not been a material shift that would, in the reasoning as why we should change our position on that. I believe that this is the right thing to do, and I understand on any issue there will be a division. And tonight we have people who are very firmly in favour of one particular decision. We've had 2 deputations on that. But I also need to consider the results of the community consultation and other residents and other ratepayers who have not been represented here tonight. And on that, I'm going to place my greatest weight on the consultation that was done. So I'll be voting against the motion tonight.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm ashamed to say that I hadn't been to see Trust Lane before the last meeting, but I went today and I was a cut through traffic, and it wasn't a very nice experience. Trying to get out onto Fullerton Road was horrible, and trying to get over to the next lane to go into Greenhill Road, forget it. So on that basis, I can see that it's too hard to do it. That wasn't even peak time, so I will be voting for the rescission motion.
Councillor Piggott.
If I could speak to it also, I was happy to second it, and I am happy to support it. I did not support the motion last time, and the reason I didn't is because of this. If you look at the history, Councillor Davis is right. We're here to represent all. That is very true. But if you see what's happened here is that we've had a lane that was closed for 20 years. It was open for a special occasion, which was fine, and obviously these things need to happen on the basis it would be closed again. Administration rightly, I think, reopened the question. It was probably right to open the question, albeit that hadn't been canvassed at the start. And then we've got the highly informative graph or the chart in our papers last with all the pink and the blue as to who voted yes and who voted no. And it does turn out 57%, 43% in terms of reopening it. But I think it is valid to see who voted which way. And it strikes me that what happens here is that, quite aside from reversing a decision of admin that had been communicated, I think we need to think long and hard before we do that, unless there's been a major issue in what they've done. And that's not the case here. I think that was a reasonable decision. But then you need to look at where the votes are coming from. And it's a situation, I feel, that there are quite a number of losers. Perhaps this is what Councillor Carbone said. There's 13 pink marks there that back out onto that street every morning or every time they need to leave their properties, and they don't want it reopened. And the blues are all over the place, with actually, I think, very little to gain. Hortville Terrace, that's certainly true. If I can cut through Trust instead of Hortville, that would be a small win. But actually, the losers in this, if we don't close this lane again, like it's been for the last 20 years, are quite significant. And I think the winners will barely notice the difference. So I think admin got it right in the first place. I'm not prepared to actually have it overturned here and go back on what that decision was made and notified to the residents of Truss Lane, and so I will support the motion.
Councillor Lemon.
I won't be supporting this motion, and I entirely disagree with what Councillor Piggott has just said. The reason I brought this to this chamber in the first place wasn't because the road was open, the lane was open, with a promise that it would be closed and then it would be closed again. The reason I brought this to the chamber was we did a community consultation. We did a community consultation. We sent out to 339 people that are in that vicinity. 67 people responded. And those 67 people that responded have all got a connection to Truss Lane. And of those 67 people, 38 of them wanted it to stay open and 29 of them wanted it to be closed. Now, Councillor Carbone talks about honour. I don't believe that this council shows honour if we go out and do a community consultation and then totally not take any notice at all of what the local people say. We live in a democracy, and in a democracy, majority rules. And 57% of people that responded to that survey want that lane to remain open. What we heard tonight was that there's a speeding, and I've still got, you can all go and find the report from our last council meeting. I've still got the report. Our traffic people said that there isn't a speeding issue in that lane, the 85% percentile, so less than 85% and less people do less than 34 kilometres an hour in that lane, in the midpoint. Our traffic people said, they did a count, the traffic volumes are low. Our traffic people said there is a low risk of crashes because of the wide nature of the street at the eastern end, which is where our deputation has come from. So our traffic people say it's perception of safety as opposed to the reality of safety. There's been 7 crashes in the last 25 years, and that is people hitting a fixed object, according to while it was closed, 7 crashes. It is not a cut-through street because the T-junction at the end is really poor. So what do we say? Do we say to the residents of Burnside, and we're going to go out to we're going to talk about going out to a consultation tonight, do we say, oh look, we're going to stick a consultation in your letterbox and answer it for us please, and we may or may not take any notice of what you say? Are we going to pit resident against resident, or are we in fact going to take notice of what our consultation results are? And that was the only reason I brought this matter to this chamber, because I don't believe, to be true to our principles, we can ignore the results of a consultation, no matter how few the people are that respond.
Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. I will again repeat what I said last time. I just want to drill down on these stats. Now, we've heard that in the wider group, 57% said they wanted the lane open, 57%. But if you look at the total number of residents in that count, 25 said open, 27 said closed. And I did ask the question at the last meeting, if you look at the blue zone in that survey, the blue zone was those properties that had a direct access to Truss Lane, a direct access, the blue. So I thought the blue zone to me was more representative than the wider area that was on that map. Now, if you look at the blue zone, 12 residents were for closure and 4 were for open. So that was 12 to 4. That's quite an amazing number. Now, in the blue zone, the majority want it to be closed. So that's what I'm looking at. I do agree with Councillor Lemon that a majority rules, but I think you've got to drill down a little bit further to see which stats really do matter. And it's those that have a direct access onto Truss Lane. So I will be supportive of the rescission motion.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I have a question first. Could, through you to the administration, what does the community consultation such as was undertaken in Trust Lane for this process, cost to council, please?
Through Madam Mayor, if I can refer that to Mr Cooper. Through the Mayor, our estimate is approximately $600.
Thank you. Now you wish to speak or just ask a question?
If I may speak, thank you. I'm happy to maintain the honour of our community consultation process. For all the reasons that have been outlined, the residents of this area, and it isn't just the street that's involved, Trust Lane, it is the wider area when a street is open or closed that has access, were given the opportunity, nearly 340 of them, given the opportunity to have their say. 67 people thought it important enough to respond, and 57% of this asked for the laneway to remain open. I've had consultations in my area where the majority have chosen a position that I didn't agree with, but I have to live with it. And I think once we go out, this process has a great deal of integrity. I think we have to respect our staff. We had a very, very good report brought to us at council on this issue, and I voted the way the majority of residents who responded wanted us to. So I won't be supporting the motion tonight. I think we must honour our community consultation and leave the laneway open.
Next is Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Mayor. So 1 in 5 people could vote, wanted to vote, and there was a 40-30 split. So really the results didn't show one way or another which way we should go with this. And I think we put, I do appreciate, yep, we do community consultation, but look, that's just one factor in the dimension of making a decision. And tonight we've heard from the community, we've heard from the elected members. So I will be supporting this decision. Safety is a very important matter, traffic safety, and safety has been brought to our attention. I take the precautionary principle.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Jones.
Can I ask a question? Am I right in thinking this motion has got a sunset clause on it? That it's open to a period of time and then it ends, it closes, and then we would need to move again to reopen? Or was I just imagining that?
Through Madam Mayor, with reference to the current motion that's in play, we'd suggested that the laneway remain open but the decision be reviewed. If the alluded to decision gets up this evening, the closure would remain closed until that decision is revisited. There is no automatic reconsideration.
But if it's open, we then review it at a certain date?
Certainly. So the current motion says that we would receive a report and identified issues in May 2022. So there's a trigger point for council to reconsider the position as it stands right now.
Wish to speak as well, or?
Well, I think Paul's got a question.
All right.
Well, look, maybe this is for Councillor Carbone to address in his summing up, but I'm a bit confused, I have to say, so I'm undecided. I distinctly recall the answer to my question was there wasn't a cut-through problem on that street, that it's easier to cut through Hopeville. So then my question is, the people who would be going down that road are presumably people coming from the south, from Fullerton, who want to get parked at the businesses on Greenhill Road, to which to do so, they must, at the moment, go down Hopeville, up Birkin, and then down Trust, because they can turn right onto Trust. So there's traffic on that road. And if you open the road, what you would do is you take that traffic off Hopeville, which would presumably benefit those properties in some way anyway, and then they just turn left down Trust from Fullerton. So I'm struggling a bit to see what the issue is, and I really don't buy the trust thing because the council staff said that. I didn't make any promises to anyone, so I don't feel guilty, but perhaps Councillor Carbone can address that and convince me of why he's right.
Now Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Nina Marnie, I greet you all. I am a little bit at odds with this because I think the motion before us tonight is a rescission, and essentially what we're doing is changing our minds about last meeting. And rule of thumb I tend to have is I tend to not support rescissions unless I've got new information I didn't have at the last meeting, which I'm sorry to say to the people outside, I haven't received anything tonight that I didn't know last time. In saying that though, I'm incredibly sympathetic to the situation, and I guess to draw attention to the details of last meeting's motion was that we are going to report back, we're going to have a report back to us in May about the impact of traffic, caused by this opening. So I think that's going to put us in a situation where we do have more information. So while I have a great deal of sympathy, I can't support to rescind this evening.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? All right, I shall go back to Councillor Carbone.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think Councillor Piggott summed it up best, and that is with everything in life, I think sometimes there's always going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And you have to look at it in balance. If I said to someone, would you like $1 million? Of course they're going to say yes. But what if at the same equation someone had to give up that $1 million? So you've got to look at who's losing compared to who's winning. Now, when it comes to this lane, and I hope and I trust that everyone has been to this lane, because if you haven't, then you don't need to vote. But when you go to this lane, you'll realise and you'll understand, and when you talk to the residents, that those people who voted to open it don't need it and probably won't use it because their driveway faces Green Hill Road or their driveway faces Birkin Street. They won't go onto the lane. So if it's opened up, sure, it's great, it's open, but it's minimal benefit. You've got to look at what's at stake here for those that stand to lose. There are 20 residents, of which like 18 voted no, who have houses on Hawkville Terrace, by the way. So when we talk about cut-through traffic, they are residents on Hawkville Terrace, but their driveway backs onto Truss Lane. They are the only ones who back onto Truss Lane. They're the only ones who will use it all the time. And when you start opening it up to two-way traffic, by the way, on a road that's 3.5 metres wide, okay, it's going to be a nightmare. And every time they back out, just think about it, every time they back out, there's going to be a car potentially going 50 k's an hour down a small, narrow road. And there will be cut-through traffic because that's exactly what we heard 20 years ago. We're making the same mistakes that our predecessors weren't listening to. So they don't want your sympathy, they don't want your review, they want what they were asked, they want what they were given 20 years ago, and they want what they were promised 1 year ago. Where is the honour? We are a council, we represent everyone, staff, elected members, everyone. And we as a body, on 2 occasions, told them it would be temporary. And they took that as under good faith. They took our word for it. And here we are, going back on our word for no gain. Now, we're all smart, intelligent people. We have to look at these surveys a little deeper sometimes. We can't just go with the headline result. Dig a little deeper. And the people who live on the air apartments, the businesses, people 2 streets over, okay, they voted yes, but so what? Look at the people who stand to lose the most.
Thank you. Right, I shall put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? 7, okay. So the motion is lost and division has been called. Please stand those who voted in support. Councillor Henschke, Pigott, Carbone, Turnbull and Dawes. Those against, Councillor Cornish, Hughes, Davey, Davis, Lemon, Jones and Hubel. Thank you. And thank you for your attendance out in the gallery. Right, we now move to Dulwich Community Centre. Councillor Henschke, you'd like to move an alternate motion, I believe.
Right, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, you ready now?
Yes, just waiting for it to come on the screen. Thank you. Okay. Right, I'm just waiting for Councillor Carbone. Okay. All right. I, Councillor Henschke, move that Council support the future of the Dulwich Community Centre and 1, renovate in stages to address compliance issues and meet all relevant standards and codes. 2, write to the Honourable Vicky Chapman MP and Mr James Stevens MP for grants to support this worthy project. For example, the Stronger Community Grants and Places for People grants. And 3, the administration provide a report to Council in 3 months on an alternative model for a state government funded neighbourhood house or community centre and create employment at the centre. Thank you all for visiting the community centre many times, and thank you to the administration for many years of perseverance in getting information from the community about what they want. This is really simple. We have a community centre, and with this motion we will be giving the people what they want. The people want a community centre. I can see Councillor Davis shaking his head, but they want a community centre. If we don't go forward with this, we'll be denying the people what they want. It will not cost $1.7 million to renovate in stages to address compliance issues. Now, this is a sensible way forward, to renovate in stages. Change the light globe that has not been replaced in December, and many other things, and the broken curtains. This can't go on. Let's just get on with it and make a decision. Let's renovate in stages. The community have already told us tonight, $300,000. They've got information. They're an active community. I don't have to repeat what people have said tonight. This centre, the data is showing that before COVID and after COVID, occupancy has remained the same, 20%. I'm talking about one significant figures here, 20% at Dulwich before COVID, after COVID. At the hub, 60% down to 20%, more unstable. Now, I have called our local government advisors in the office of our MP and discussed the project that could happen here. And there are many, many opportunities in this post-COVID world to help the community and the ageing population. There are grants for all sorts of worthy projects, for the Stronger Community Grants. This is a prime location in a strong suburb where people can walk to the centre. People already have a lot of ownership and a lot of historical connection with this centre. And finally, this report from the administration in 3 months, you know what? There are alternative models. We can create employment at this site. I have spoken to young people that want to work at this centre. They have worked in community centres funded by the state government. We don't realise we have community-funded centres by the state government. They employ people. What we have generally in the city of Burnside are council-run centres. That's what Dulwich has been for many, many years, a council-run centre. Now, we need to help this community and support them. There are great examples across the state of state-funded centres. I really do hope you support this move forward. It is practical, and I know that we need to consult with the community always through every project. I'm sure this project will be consulted widely with the community in all its relevant phases, and that please vote for it. Thank you.
I seek a seconder. It's almost a tie between Councillor Jones and Councillor Turnbull. Councillor Jones? You can reserve your right to speak, but you're happy to second.
Let Jenny second that.
Councillor Turnbull, you basically put your hands up exactly the same time. So Councillor Turnbull is seconding. Do you wish to speak now? All right, okay. Councillor Davis, do you wish to speak now?
Unless I can reserve my right. You have no rights. So $1.7 million spent in a single year over a number of years is $1.7 million. When we look at some of the other projects that we're funding at the moment, and we have funded in the past, if you have a look at the hub costs $5 million. That would be 1.7 times 3 gives you a hub. If we have a look at the development, well, the new club rooms that are they're proposed for Kenzie Gardens Reserve, that's an $8 million project, and that's what you're going to get for $8 million. To my mind, the primary issue at Dulwich Community Centre is not the community centre part, it's the Strength for Life part. That's a predominant use, it's a predominant tenant, and their difficulty is that the Dulwich Community Centre is not an appropriate location for them. What I think, and I think that there are many appropriate locations for Strength for Life to expand. Now, my mum, she came down on the weekend and she's struggling to walk. And I understand, and she uses rowing in a similar way, I suppose, to Strength for Life. So I can absolutely understand the benefits that Strength for Life can give to our residents. And that's what we should be focused on, is how can we deliver the best outcome for those residents? Now, I understand there's a karate club there, I understand there's Spanish dancing there, so I understand there's a couple of other community groups there, but the predominant thing is, how do we solve and provide facilities that meet the Strength for Life need? And there are many locations within the city of Burnside that could house that. And when I asked the deputies today, had they seen the Kensington Gardens master plan, they said no. And I think that's really unfortunate. And that's something that I will remedy myself, because I think that actually that is the perfect location for it. And the Rugby and Cricket Club they want Strength for Life there. And I spoke with the State Director and I discussed that with her as well. So to my mind, the key question that we need to make, the key community group that we're really deciding the future of, I suppose, is the Strength for Life. And to my mind, there are other alternatives for it. Then comes back to the Dulwich Community Centre, is do we want to invest $1.7 million in that particular asset at this time for that? I think, and I think I would need assistance with a motion, but I think that is a primary issue that we need to solve, and that's the one that we should be focused on. And then I think that what happens with Dulwich Community Centre will come after that, really. And so I think that we're doing this a little bit back to front, is that we're looking at a community centre which houses a huge portion of our community, rather than looking at how we can best serve that portion of our community. And I think that we need to look at that first and then the community centre, if that's a viable option. But this motion, there's no way we can support it. It's committing immediately council to 1.7 million, and we just can't do that tonight.
Councillor Hughes.
So I just have a question. This may be for the administration or perhaps for Councillor Henschke to address in her closing, but there's no financials associated with this current motion, so just the renovating stages, is that essentially an open checkbook to complete all of the renovations to get up to disability access. I guess it's difficult to understand what this actually covers.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I have a number of concerns that I think need remedying should Council wish to pursue this. One is the renovating stages. Over what time frame are we talking about, and what are the dollars involved? With two, I'm not clear whether that's seeking to get grants to fund the project or to fund programs. I'm conscious that, for example, Stronger Communities grants only provides grants of up to $20,000. So if it was envisaged that would support capital, I don't believe that's going to do that. Point three, again, I've got a concern with where this is going. If we're talking about creating employment, I'm not sure how that goes with what that community is expecting there, but I'm not sure the zoning is even correct to allow employment to be generated on the site.
You don't wish to speak? No. Okay, at this point. Okay. Next one is Councillor.
Thank you. I'm a bit confused by this motion, because my reading of this motion is that we're jumping straight to option one, whereas my understanding of our work here tonight was to look at what we were going to ask the community, because if we're going to ask the community to consider big things and the things that we've got here, if we were going to actually spend $1.7 million, it doesn't matter to me whether we spend it in 6 months or whether we spend it in 60 years, we're still spending that equivalent of that sort of money. And I do believe that we need to ask the community that. If we're going to continue over a long period of time in that venue again, I think we need to ask the community. I think what I'm concerned about with this motion is this takes the middleman out, where we're just making the decision to go for option one, and the middleman actually are the people that we serve in Burnside, and I just am very concerned that what this motion does is completely excise them from it. What we heard from tonight are people that feel passionate about Dullet Community Centre, and it's great that some people feel passionate about it and that the people that feel passionate about it have come tonight. But what I've heard is there are also problems with the current Dullet Community Centre, and they would still be the same problems even if it were renovated. So I have difficulty supporting this because it doesn't tell us anything. We're just going down the street and making a decision without really having talked to the people who are going to be using this community, this centre, and that is our community. So I've got real difficulties with this.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. We've been talking to the people about this for years and years, according to them. There's been surveys, etc. Nothing's been done. It gets more and more dilapidated. Some of them are quite disheartened. They say things like the council's letting it run down so that they can get rid of it. Things like that. Maybe true, maybe not. Unfortunately, any infodoc or report that I've read about Dullet Community Centre has put more emphasis on the negatives on keeping this centre than the positives. Nothing's ever mentioned about it being a community centre. It is, it's that. A meeting place, a gathering place for the community. For example, on page 9, 7.3.2, it says, a gain on disposal would increase council surplus. Good, but surely council has wider, more community-minded goals than that. The Dullet Community Centre has been located at 14 Union Street for ages, 1965. It is now, and has been for many years, in urgent need of repairs and upgrading. It's time to make up for the neglect. Time to catch up on what should have been done for years. So invest the money in it. Let's do it. We don't want to sell council assets and land, surely. It was heartening to read the results of the EM survey. It said to renovate to address compliance with all standards and codes, it rated the most votes. We've been hearing repeatedly from a vocal community that they would agree. During the past 2.5 years that we, this group of elected members, have been representing our residents, we've allocated a lot of money to the sporting clubs of Burnside Council. Grants to the Kensington Garden Cricket Club coming up, new building for the Old Collegians Rugby Club, new building for Glenunga Tennis Club, refurbishment of other tennis clubs, sporting clubs, not to mention a pump track. 34 playgrounds in which ratepayers' monies are spent, building, maintaining, amalgamating for the younger members of our community. Good, all great to promote sport, fitness and socialising. But let's not forget the over 60s, the retirees, of whom Burnside has a considerable percentage. They want to be able to access a convenient community centre for their Strength for Life classes. Many walk to the classes and they would like a refurbished, modernised, clean facility so they could socialise. Maybe they could have garden clubs, book clubs, who knows? The report gives figures benchmarking Dullet Community Centre against other community places in regard to occupancy rates. But hang on, obviously at the new community places, the users have access to newer, well-maintained facilities like more sanitary toilets and a kitchen you could actually feel confident to use, and blinds that are not broken. I urge that the issue of the Dulwich Community Centre be finalised very soon, and the timeline given in the report be amended for an earlier finalising of this issue. It's been around for a long time. The building's getting shabbier and more dilapidated, but it's still an asset of the Burnside Council, one that can't be easily replaced. It deserves better. Thank you.
Councillor Councillor Hubel's next. Then Councillor Carbone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I'm torn. I really am. I mean, I love the Dulwich Community Centre. The place is an absolute landmark. It's well used. Everyone talks about it. I've gone there in a previous life. Former partner of mine used to go there every Sunday morning. I used to pick her up and drop her off, so I used to go there quite a lot. So I know it's well liked, I know it's well loved, and I know it's well used. And if I could sum it up in a couple of words, it would be great service, bad location. Because every time I used to go there, every time it was gridlock. You couldn't get in, you couldn't get out, and those poor neighbours. I do feel sorry for them because the place is so popular. It means there's no parks for anyone, and then of course you've got to get out, and it is a narrow street, and again another narrow street. So I'm torn. I want to renovate it, and Councillor Henschke, I haven't made my mind up yet. I probably will support it, but I'm still iffy. But you know, I can't help but feel that if we could just literally pick it up and put it maybe on Dulwich Avenue or something, how much better it would be. But, so I just want to share my thoughts. So, Councillor, I'll probably support you, but it's the parking, that niggling little issue that keeps me awake at night.
Councillor Jones.
I have to say, I like the officer's recommendation. I would, if that was run, I would have voted for it, because I think if we would go out to community council consultation, option 1 is going to win hands down, which would be a great result. However, this motion is even better. I do have some sympathy that people think we've been dicking around for too long, frankly. 10 years. We had the last set of community consultation. It went, this is from memory, 40% said renovate, 40% said knock it down and rebuild, 10% said demolish, 10% said sell it. Now, to my view, that's saying 80% want to keep it, either renovate it or rebuild it, but it was said, oh, well, there's no clear consensus. So I do have sympathy with Councillor Henschke's view. I mean, one, I get what the CEO is saying about renovating in stages, but I think we can do that affordably. It doesn't have to all be done in 1 year. I think the 1.7 million is outlandish. Again, you know, I went to a quantity surveyor. Quote, for a single-storey community building, 2,635 per square metre, it's 510 square metres, that's 1.35 million to build a brand new community facility. So surely renovating has got to be cheaper. And if it's not cheaper, we should knock it down and rebuild the bloody thing, if that'd be cheaper. So, and then we'd have a purpose-built facility. Community centres got to be a good thing, haven't they? The more we have, the better. It's like saying we've got too many parks. You can't have too many parks. We're going to have infill. We've got the Glenside development coming along, 2,500 people. They won't have a community centre built for them by, what are they called, Cedar Woods, let me tell you. So they'll all be placing demand on a community centre. I have to say, it is community land. I did rather go on the record last fortnight saying I would never vote to sell 1 square inch of community land. So I'll have to continue that. And I've got a minute left. It's not just about Strength for Life. They're the stalwarts who've hung out there despite the crappy condition it's been left in. But if it was in a decent condition, lots of other people would use it because it's not in the best location, but it's in the best location we can afford because we can't afford to be on Dullet Avenue with a huge multi-storey car park next to it. So I am going to support this motion and I hope everyone else will.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I have a question. One of the issues that's come up time and time again, and the importance of this centre is for the Strength for Life classes. Could I just clarify, and they're excellent, I mean, they're just, there's no denying that they look after our mature age community and their fitness and health superbly. But I was under the impression that we had a whole range of locations across Burnside for Strength for Life. Can you please clarify to me what other locations there are, please?
Through Madam Mayor, I would just seek advice from Mr Cant.
Through your worship, there are a few private Strength for Life locations, including the Good Life Gym. This is the only City of Burnside supported Strength for Life programme.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. Actually, I haven't quite worked out where I'm going to sit on this at the moment. I completely agree with Councillor Jones's point of view that if we did do the officer's recommendation, I'm also of a similar opinion that option 1 will be absolutely and utterly supported. And I think it's so much smarter going out with one option to retain and renovate rather than having 3 and you split that vote and you water that vote down like the last time. I am concerned in terms of this is a bit of a blank cheque and potentially if we're doing it in stages, what additional cost that might be. Does that 1.7 blow out to 2.3? You know, I've certainly seen those sort of issues happen before with building large projects of this sort of scale. I queried whether or not a motion to ask for a report on how to renovate in stages and address might have been the appropriate way to actually take this, so we actually get a bit of an understanding from the administration regarding how they might actually do that in stages and how and what the costs might be involved. I don't share the CEO's sort of sentiment with regards to the grant funding because it's EG. Sorry, it is only 2 examples of grant programs, so there are other grant programs out there and there might not be any that are suitable, but it is writing requesting for financial support for this. The third point of it, look, I'm not entirely sold on, well, I haven't seen enough information regarding the neighbourhood house, and if it's state funded, are we handing the facility over for the state to run? I don't know enough information about that to actually do it, so obviously seeking a report I think is quite a smart move to actually understand a bit more about that. Look, overall, you know, in terms of raising some of the other issues, I've never had a complaint of parking in that street. Never. So parking is not an issue. I am concerned once we do renovate and a lot more people start attending that there will be complaints in the street, but I certainly have not had complaints in the street that I've received. So still on the fence. I am a little concerned that it's a bit of a blank cheque with it, but I certainly understand the absolute sentiment that I think that no matter what the options were going out for consultation, Renovate was going to be the supported one from the community, and I think let's save that money and go straight to the actual build itself. But whether or not this is the best approach, or asking for a report on how that is best done, it might have been the better option. But I'll wait until I hear the summing up.
Councillor Piggott.
Thanks. Look, I feel it's clear we can't vote this up. I agree with Councillor Cornish. You know, it seems a number of people have made their mind up already as to what should happen, and so be it. But we can't put a motion through like this, I feel, in that it doesn't lock it into any sort of certainty for mine. It's in stages. I guess we could start in 2030 and finish in 2035. So it's not the way to go as a council, I feel. I think we should vote this down and as a minimum ask for a report along Councillor Cornish's lines. My view still is that the 3 should go out. The recommendation, I think, is the right way to go. I do feel on philosophical grounds that people are hanging on to a building that's in the wrong place. It's doing things for people who are passionate about it, but could be done elsewhere in perhaps even better ways. Councillor Cornish hasn't had a parking complaint. You got one tonight, Councillor Carbone. If we put money into this, and look, I didn't really want to debate about what we should or shouldn't do, but one of the issues in forging forward is that, you know, it is currently doing 18%, and I would think even the mover would be seeing that if we are going to renovate it and sort this place out, we would want then it to be accessed by a lot more people, and the standard across the council seems to be more like 60%. So 3 times as many people going in there. At the moment, we can't use it on weekends and nights. We can't use the outside. I don't know what that is. I know when I was there, the dog was feral over the fence. I hope that neighbour's not in the gallery, but I can only assume it was along those lines. So passion aside, it is actually not performing a great job. But that aside, this motion cannot get up as a... We can't do this as a council. It just is not well enough defined, in my view. It does leave too many things open. Point 3, I think, I mean, I don't mind getting a report on that, but we certainly couldn't just tick it based on, you know, what we've had tonight. So I think I will be voting against it.
Councillor Day.
Thank you. I have another question through you to the administration. If renovation did proceed in stages, how would it be possible to, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but how would it be possible to deal with the parking issues? As I see it, parking would have to be, if the site was renovated, undercroft parking, and that would mean a whole demolition and reconstruction. Would that be right?
Through Madam Mayor, I have turned my mind to what a renovation may look like. And if I may, my advice to council is if you're going to do this, you do it. You don't do it in stages. You bite the bullet and do it. I have some thoughts about how you can provide all abilities parking off of the street if the renovation occurs in a certain way. However, we would need to look at whatever the parking controls are in that street if we are looking at enhancing the visitation. So it is a concern that I haven't got a definitive answer for at the minute, but I am looking at opportunities to provide all abilities parking on the site in the renovation as it stands in my mind at the minute.
Councillor Hughes.
I didn't want to speak to this evening because I actually think we've got a budget to get through and it's nearly 10 to 9 and maybe I've come with the wrong mindset, but I will speak against this motion because this to me is winging it. This is completely against what the officer's recommendation says with no background information to make a decision. Let's renovate in stages. What are we renovating? What does it look like? What's the scope? it's making a decision without information. It's just irresponsible. So I think we should vote this down, vote with the officer's recommendation, get a definitive answer from our community, and then yes, we will perhaps end up renovating it, but that report would perhaps come back with detail of what's in the scope. And I think we sit here saying, oh, it would be $1.7 million. Where do we get that from? We can do it for $300,000. At the end of the day, we've asked administration to provide us with information, and they haven't just plucked those numbers out of nowhere. They've gone away, they've done some research, they've spoken to people, they've got background information from past projects, and I think we need to respect that as an elected body and also as a community, that the information that is being provided to us is not just information that's pulled out of nowhere, it's actually factually correct information. So I will not be supporting this motion tonight, and I will run the officer's recommendation if no one beats me to fastest finger first.
Councillor Lemon, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. My question actually is about the community survey. I'm very interested. There's a lot of talk about, nothing's been definitive. What was the scope of this survey? Where was it going? Can anybody answer me that?
Through Madam Mayor, if I can refer Mr. Kant.
Through the Mayor, the scope of the surveys, we were looking at undertaking quite a few different mechanisms with focus groups, letterbox drops, surveys, in an article in Focus magazine, and obviously engaging through all our socials. We were looking at leveraging off a couple of other community consultation processes. So at the moment, I've actually got it cost neutral. There's no budget bid in to undertake that consultation, just the way that I've leveraged off other opportunities.
Right. Another question. I've got some others before you, Jane. Councillor Davey. Yeah, but you're down the list further. Okay. So next one to speak is Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I don't disagree with the sentiment behind this motion, but look, as it stands, the specific wording of it, I can't support this motion that's before us at the moment. I think committing to go ahead with the renovation, while it may or may not be something I think is the best option, I think we don't have the information about the specifics of the build to commit. So, also given the CEO's comments on the motion as well, gives me pause as well. I do think that consultation on this asset is very important. I think the different options should go out. I think it should just be the two. I don't think that we should put out the sale. And we do go out. I do think we need to really inform the community. If we go to consultation on this, I do think we need to inform the community very, very thoroughly on what these different options mean. If we are asking the community to say yes to a renovation, and look, I agree, if we're going to do it, let's do it properly, maximise what we need to do. So if 1.7 is what we're looking at to make this the best it can be, I think if we're going to do it, let's do that. But if we're going to be asking the community to support, yes, we see value in the community centre and we should upgrade it and that's what it's going to cost, that means more debt for the council. I think the community needs to be aware of exactly what it is they're voting for. Similarly, if there are benefits to demolition, which the report before us talks about, I think those aspects need to be quite clear as well. So while I appreciate where you're coming from, Councillor Henschke, I can't vote for the motion that's on the table at the moment.
Councillor Carbone, you have a question?
I did, Your Worship, but in the interest of time, I'll withdraw it.
Right, thank you. Councillor Davey, you wish to speak?
Thank you. Yes, I certainly support the sentiments of the motion, but so much work has gone into working to get us to this stage. With the last round of community consultation being inconclusive, I think we've reached the stage where we have to go out and actually consult with our community And so I support the officer's recommendation that we actually, I think the three options are the reasonable ones to ask our community: renovate, but I think I would like to see them with the costings, some rough costings alongside each of the three options: renovate, demolish, or dispose of the facility. I certainly don't support disposing of the facility, and I would hate to see that happen. But if we do that, it should be with allocation of sale funds being reinvested into the City of Burnside Open Space Fund, which we have for that purpose existing, and I think that should go into general revenue. I would actually I think the best value for this location would be for us to demolish the facility and have a pocket park. I think in terms of our environmental objectives, we could benefit greatly from grassing the area and planting it up and making it a nice area for passive recreation, exercise or whatever for people to walk to in Dulwich. It just doesn't, the location, as Councillor Carbone said so well, is just not conducive to a large community centre, much as we'd like one. So I believe in and will support the councillor's recommendation if this doesn't get up. Thank you.
Councillor Davis, you have a question?
Yeah. From the occupancy rates of 20% or about 26 hours a week, what percentage of that is from Strength for Life?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I refer that to Mr. Kent.
Through the Mayor, that would be a majority, I'd say up to 80%.
80%, okay. About 22 hours-ish. Yeah.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Turnbull, you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. Whatever motion we go for, can we expedite this whole process? It seems to drag on, and rather than wait for the next focus, for example, to put a survey out.
Thank you. I think it's a rhetorical question rather than one that requires a specific answer. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I'm going back to Councillor Henschke. Right, Councillor Henschke.
Right. Hello. Well, aren't we here to set policy, set strategy? We're going down to the nuts and bolts, I'm afraid. Look, we have a project management framework. It will provide us with all the consultation we wish for in the world. It will provide us with detailed scopes for Councillor Hughes. I know she's an engineer. I'm an engineer too. I like to see details. We will do so much community consultation through this process if we go forward with this. It won't be... We would. And I say that we would be morally doing the very wrong thing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Please don't interrupt. You get your chance to vote against, and when you get the vote, please don't interrupt.
And morally, Daisy Salotti bequeathed her home for all of the people in the Dulwich Rose Park community. I am disgraced that we could even contemplate demolishing her home or selling it to a developer. I'm really cross, because who else is going to bequeath their property to the City of Burnside ever again after the City of Burnside goes out for community consultation on the option of selling it to a developer or demolishing it? It's actually a little bungalow, very cute, with an unfortunate front addition. Davy Salotti's bequeathed her dollars into building the back hall in the 1970s. Really serious stuff for the community. Now, the CEO's comments, I can clarify. Thank you, Councillor Cornish. E.g., stronger community grants. On item 3, the report about the funding, employment in the area. Absolutely a fantastic opportunity to employ people to run the centre. And renovating the stages, look, I'm really clear here. It is really stages. We will get consulted. We are here to set policy and strategy, not get down to the details. And I do hope we make the right decision tonight. We have 5.8 million baby boomers in Australia and 500,000 in South Australia. We have got many, many ageing residents and many youth that would be grateful to be part of this centre. The opportunities for a neighbourhood house are endless. People can go there with their prams. Parents working from home would want to meet other like-minded working parents, bring their children with them. They can't do that at the Burnside Library. That's an example. Another example from the community is the resident who said, I'd love to do cooking classes there, but I can't because the kitchen's not good enough. Another resident. It will go on. I haven't got time to go through all the residents, but they do want the centre. Finally, here is their petition. We didn't actually see it last time, but there's 500 people that want this centre. And you can't tell me that you're not going to support your community. Thank you.
Right, I put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is lost. Now we need to move. I'm cognisant of the
Division? Division, calling a division.
Is it too late for the division? All right. We haven't moved on? Okay, haven't moved on, so the division is appropriate. I've just checked.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Henschke, Councillor Cornish. Sorry, these are in favour? Favour.
In favour.
We always do in favour first.
Save Dulwich Community
In favour.
Centre.
Councillor... Can we just focus on one thing at a time? Councillor Henschke, Councillor Cornish, Councillor Carbone, Councillor Turnbull and Councillor Jones. Those against, Councillor Hughes, Davey, Piggott, Davis, Lemon, Dawes and Hubel. And I said already that it was lost. Okay, so we have now a decision to make. I'll just express it first. Finish this debate or take a break. And then we must, as soon as we have finished the recommendation, we must go straight to budget. Councillor Hughes? Well, do you want that? You've asked a question. You'd like to do it now? Is that what you wanted to do, Jane? So you're happy to second that? Okay. So those in favour? I need to know whether you want to vote now, whether you want to continue with this debate now and offer the recommendation or take a break. No, Jane. I want to know if you wish to have a break now or go to the recommendation. Pardon? Thank you, Councillor Davis. That's a mover. Seconder, Councillor Turnbull. Those in favour? Thank you. We will take a break. Okay, we need to resume the meeting. And I'm seeking a direction in terms of moving on with this motion, or as it stands for officers' recommendations, or going straight to the budget. Councillor Lemon?
I move that we go straight to the budget.
Right, seconded by Councillor Davis? Yes, and we can leave this motion till the next meeting. So those in favour? Right, thank you. Now, it does mean that we are going into confidential mode, and I seek a motion to do that. Go.
Pursuant to section, do I have to read the whole thing out?
Yes, please.
Pursuant to section 92 of the Local Government Act 1999, the Council orders that all members of the public, except the elected members of the City of Burnside, the Chief Executive Officer, General Manager Corporate and Development, General Manager Urban and Community, Group Manager Finance and Governance and Executive Support Officer be excluded from attendance at the meeting for item 15.1, projects for inclusion in the 21-22 draft annual business plan and budget elected member proposals report number 07821. The Council is satisfied that pursuant to section 93B of the Act, the information to be received, discussed or considered in relation to the agenda item would prejudice the commercial position of the Council due to the information contained in the report, and attachments would provide the Council's commercial position on the projects proposed and may prejudice the Council's ability to negotiate with successful tenderers in the future. In addition, the disclosure of this information would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest. The public interest in public access to the meeting has been balanced against the public interest in the continued non-disclosure of the information. The benefit to the public at large resulting from withholding the information outweighs the benefit of disclosure of the. It's written badly. As the disclosure of Council's commercial position may prejudice Council's ability to negotiate to receive the best value for money for each of those projects when tenders are issued. The Council is satisfied in principle that the meeting be conducted in a place open to the public. It has been outweighed by the need to keep the information or discussion confidential. I didn't do it really fast. No, not really.
Thank you. So it's all clear? Councillor Cornish? Seconding it, sorry. And now we'll vote. Those in favour of going to confidential? Okay. You can.
The last time the administration tried this, we voted against it because transparency demands the public should see what we're spending their money on. And I don't see why we suddenly changed. And, you know, the notion that some of these dollar figures, like Councillor Carbone's multicultural festival of $X, is some enormous state secret is just utter nonsense. So I'm against it, and I should be voting against it, and I'll be calling a division.
Okay. Councillor Hughes?
Can I ask a question? So when the draft budget is sent out to the community, they will see the items that are included in there, but not a dollar value?
Through Madam Mayor, can I seek clarification from Mr Cooper?
Through the Mayor, if tonight we decide to deal with this item in confidence, then when we go out to the community, they will only see a range of values and not the exact dollar value. If we decide to discuss this openly tonight in public, then when we consult on the draft budget, it is all the dollar values will be provided.
If I may, Madam Mayor, I just need to add a little bit of further clarification. The reason why we're steering away from being in public session is because we've got a experience where if we state the exact dollar value of a project in this document, anyone that's bidding on our works knows our budget, and it's been uncanny the amount of times that the tenders have come in to the dollar of our budget bid. That is one of the primary reasons we're doing this. It's to protect council's interests. It's not because we're seeking to do things in private. Thank you.
Right, so is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Davis.
I mean, yeah, so I know what you're saying. Last year we did have this debate in terms of keeping it open, because I mean, really, what is the risk to the City of Burnside in terms of, I mean, is it a large risk if we disclose these figures, or could we keep this report in confidence but have the debate in open? Or
through Madam Mayor, you can reveal the figures. There is nothing wrong with that, but it means that your procurement process may not result in the best value for money to council. That's all.
Councillor Piggott. No, sorry, Councillor Henschke was first and then Councillor Piggott.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it seems to be a problem then. I'm just reflecting on the Dullet Community Centre, for example, when we published that we were thinking of a project worth $1 to $1.7 million, and then we'd go out to tender for that. So just like us to reflect on being specific about things. You know, renovating in stages would have been a way of masking that we're not going to be out there with a $1 to $1.7 million budget. I guess that it does cause, yeah, I completely agree that it causes issues in the tendering, competitive tenders process, and yeah, I totally agree with keeping that information confidential.
Councillor Piggott.
Yeah, I was just going to concur with the CEO. Actually, we had an experience here a couple of years ago when we asked for a water report. The motion was just a single motion, spend up to $50,000. We went up to two tenderers. One of them came in at $49,990. The other one came in at just under 20. So it is definitely a phenomenon. So I think that it is genuinely safeguarding our interests.
Right, I have no one else who wishes to speak. Oh, Councillor Carbone.
Sorry, Your Worship. I have to ask a dumb question, if that's okay. Given that we're talking about tenders and being transparent and so forth, you know, it's fairly common to give a tenderer a budget guide, because they still know they're competing against other companies. So you could say the budget is 50,000, but they'd be doing themselves a disservice if the quote was 50,000. Because they know the other person could be 49,000. So wouldn't that just be irrelevant what the budget was? Because they still know what the cost of the work would be, and they want to get the work, so it'd still be the lowest cost regardless, right?
Through Madam Mayor, I'm really expanding on our experience in the past, and it has paid out time and time again that as soon as we publish the exact figure, people quote to that number, or very close to it, or it helps guide them into the upper range of where we've alluded to that our budget is. So my advice is to keep it in confidence, because I feel that will drive better value for money when we ultimately go to tender on these projects.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? All right. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Councillor Piggott.
Help devise safe cycling routes, which at other schools has resulted in 25% increase in cycling numbers. I would have thought that'd be exactly what this traffic problem prone school would be jumping at. However, the high school rejected this offer out of hand, stating that they have, out of 1,800 students, they have 150 that cycle, and they believe that's a good number, and therefore the program is not needed here. Now, I'm disappointed that the high school hasn't embraced a very kind gesture for assistance when they have a report in their hands telling them that they should. And I think it's important that we realise the standards that the school is standing on. According to Dipty Literature Review, rates of active travel to school in South Australia are among the lowest in the OECD. That's a Dipty Literature Review. The 2019 National Cycling Participation Survey says that a decline in cycling participation observed appears to be primarily driven by declines in children. It also stated that cycling participation by 10 to 17-year-olds sits at about 46% who've cycled in the past month. 32% of 10 to 17-year-olds in South Australia have cycled in the past week, which is a bit more of an indication of school commuting. So I think that 150 out of 1,800 comes to about 8%. Now, I don't think that's something to rest your laurels on. I think we need to keep putting pressure on active transport solutions within the city. I'll leave it there, to be kind. I do support this motion. I like the work that we're doing, but we need to do a lot more. We really need to hold the community accountable for what they're saying they're going to do.
Right, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? No, then I shall put it back to, Councillor Henschke.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Hubel. We need to do more with these routes for students that are going to be crossing Greenhill Road, going from one ward to another, and especially along secondary collectors that run through, crisscross through, I know in particular in the Rose Park Turret Gardens ward, at rapid rates through Dulwich, through Stewart Road to get to Greenhill Road. And there are cycling lanes. Not good enough. We need to slow that traffic right down and encourage that route and others.
Right, Councillor Lemon.
I just want to follow up on Councillor Hubel's. I'm really sorry that happened to the bicycle group, but I'm not surprised. The school, under its current leadership, has not been what I would call community-minded in a lot of ways. It's not consultative. It is very much what happens behind the school gate is the province of the school. What happens on the other side of the school gate, they really don't care about, which is my experience since the school has grown to the size it has. So again, what I'd say is perhaps this is more of a political issue that we need to look at because you aren't the only one that has had that sort of response. There's been a few community members, and particularly ones in the past that used the gymnasium, that have had some really unpleasant experiences with the school. So it's just unfortunate, and I'm sorry.
Those in favour, against, carried. Next one is Councillor Hughes.
I just want to make slight changes to the officer's recommendation. On part 2, change Thursdays to Tuesdays, and part 3, change Thursdays to Tuesdays. And I guess just to give a brief reasoning for this, I guess I read the report, I went back and multiple times over the last year I actually asked why we're still meeting on Thursdays when the original resolution said Tuesdays, and it just was, oh well, we're just having them on Thursdays. Well, that's actually not what we agreed on. My personal preference is, given a number of other commitments in not just myself, but you know, other people's lives, it's easier just to block out your Tuesdays, to be honest. So to then, and this is probably contrary to my next motion, which I've actually put a motion on notice, which says move the meetings to Thursdays, but that's just after a long weekend. But look, I think, and I appreciate, the report didn't state we've got to have 27 workshops in the next 6 months. It just stated we're going to move the workshops to Tuesday. If there's a reason to have more than we can accommodate, I appreciate we have the council meetings alternate Tuesdays, so that really only leaves one Tuesday a month, and there may be a need to have more than that. So I guess that point 3 really covers off if there is a need for more than one workshop a month. It can be on another day, but you know, my personal preference is it just is easier to manage your life when you know that you just lock out your Tuesdays. And that's my reasoning for the change from the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Davis, you wish to second it?
Yeah, I second the motion. I find it incredibly difficult to have a Thursday and a Tuesday free every month, and because it's not just consistent either, so that would dramatically help me in terms of my other board meetings and CFS volunteering and things like that, so it'd help me plan my life. So I appreciate the motion, thank you.
I understand the original motion did actually say Thursdays for workshops when necessary. Yeah. Okay, anyway, doesn't matter. Councillor Henschke.
What's the impact with council members that attend council assessment panel? Council assessment panel occurs on a Tuesday.
That's why,
Clarified.
why Councillor Hughes said only one be available.
Only one. Thank
Yeah.
you for clarifying.
Councillor Lemon, did you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you. I was the original mover of this motion back in February 2019, and I did actually say that it would be held on the third Tuesday of the month, which actually took into account the council assessment panel, and that overspill meetings would take place on Thursdays, and I actually think that that's what this says. But having seen this report, we've actually had them on a needs basis. We've had them on Mondays, we've had them on Wednesdays, we've had them when we've needed to have them. And my faith in administration is that when there's urgency and we need to have meetings, we'll have those meetings. So I'm not unhappy with it being on the, like we're going to actually say all our Tuesdays in the month are gone, and so is administration's Tuesdays in the month gone. And from time to time they'll be gone on a Thursday as well, and I think that's fine. I can't see this disadvantaging very many people, and it will advantage quite a few. I'm happy to support this.
Councillor Pickett?
A question, is there any reason why CAP couldn't be changed from Tuesday? Perhaps that could be looked at. I'd take it on notice. It's not, because I support this too. I mean, I've certainly missed Thursday ones. I do like Tuesday being locked out for council, and I think that's good. I mean, often you've got commitments that are the same day every week, and so I like the Tuesday as the default. Yes, you're going to have to get us in here at other times. That's fine, but I do like the Tuesday. I do think though, if we could move CAP, it would then give us a couple of months, which sometimes we might need, I'd suspect.
Councillor Davis? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Then I'll put the motion, then I'll go back to the mover, who was Councillor Hughes. Do you wish to speak again? Okay, so those in favour? Against? Carried. Those report, I think that was Councillor Hubel, wasn't it?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Look, this is just very quickly wanted to acknowledge something that was new in all our council reports this week. Did anyone spot it? The environmental sustainability disclaimer at the beginning of all the reports. I'm thrilled to see that in there. I think it's a spectacular development that we are looking at environmental sustainability considerations for every report we look at, and I'm really happy to see that, and I'll move the officer's recommendation here.
Seconder, please. Councillor Piggott, do you wish to speak? Anyone else wish to speak? Otherwise, do you wish to speak again, Councillor Hubel? All right, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. We've done everything on that page, or have I missed something? All right, how's the time going? Are we going to go back to Dulwich? Are we? I don't think we're going to do it in 20 minutes. No. And I think that my suggestion was we'd leave that till next council meeting. Sorry? What did you say? All right, okay. All right. All right. Apparently you did want to go on with the Dulwich, but if you don't agree in 10 minutes to continue on, then we're going to stop at 10:30, which means we hardly get anything done.
I'm not sure quite where we got up to with it, but could I move that it be adjourned to the next meeting, put on the next agenda?
Seek a seconder. Councillor Davis? Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against? Well, I'm going to have the casting vote and say next time. Oh no, there's 5 and, sorry, it was 5 and 6, I forgot. Jane's not here. So it was, can we do it again please? Sorry. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's right. And 5 against. Against the 5. we are going to leave Dulwich till next meeting. I think that's a sensible decision. All right. On to the change of meeting days, Councillor Hughes.
Speak very quickly. This is purely an administrative change. I guess following the last long weekend, I noticed that the Tuesday was just complete chaos. Arrived here, noticed all the emails because a lot of people do work on Tuesdays as well, and then by the time you blink and then read your emails, you realise that you've missed something that you potentially would have liked. So my proposal is simply to move any meetings that follow a public holiday Monday to Thursday, and I think that'll give us all a better chance of actually being on top of things, but also most importantly is asking the right questions of staff so that we actually use the meeting time better, but also it gives staff breathing room so that they're not mad panicking on that Tuesday to get us information. So I think it's not just to benefit all of us, it's not just to, you know, stop us ruining, you know, a council meeting after a long weekend is a good way to ruin a long weekend. So I think this will just give us all a chance to come in on the Tuesday, ask some questions, give the staff Wednesday the opportunity, and then we can come on Thursday, and I think we'll get better outcomes from the meetings.
Councillor Dawes? Second it. Is there any, Councillor Piggott, you wish to speak?
I just wanted to recognise Councillor Hughes for a command of Tuesdays and Thursdays. I think it's a very good idea. There's no question, there's a real logjam on that Tuesday in terms of trying to get answers and the like, so I think it's very sensible. I support it.
Can I just ask a question? Will that will have some impact on the timing of the creating of the agenda and the distribution of the agenda, perhaps? Or not? Can I just get
Through Madam Mayor, I'd envisage that we would keep the preparation of the agenda to the same timetable. We wouldn't amend it. It would simply allow a few extra days for those questions to come in, so we don't create the logjam.
Fine, I just wanted to check. All right, no one else wishes to speak on the matter? Then I will put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Councillor Davey has left the meeting, so we will not be looking at the merit. Sorry? I know it doesn't have to be. That's true. Thank you very much, Councillor Lemon. Do you wish to move it or discuss it? Oh, okay. Councillor Hughes, do you wish to?
No, I wish to move a motion that that item is deferred to the next agenda. Can I do that?
Adjourned? Adjourn till the next meeting, that's the wording, all right? You wish
Yes,
to
I wish
adjourn
to
that
move
to the next meeting?
To the next meeting.
Seconded, Councillor Cornish? What?
I'm uncertain because I was hearing Councillor Davey say that she was going to withdraw it earlier tonight before the meeting started. So I would actually leave it with no action, and if she wishes to bring it up again, she can. Yeah.
Is that appropriate, CEO, governance?
Yep, so,
all right.
No, you don't lose it. She can put in. Councillor Davey can move another motion on notice for the next agenda, and I'm sure the CEO will ask her that question if she'd like to take it on. But I did have a conversation with her earlier, and perhaps there's an alternative strategy.
Then I do not believe there's anything else there that we need to discuss tonight. But just in terms of other business, I'm sure that you were as delighted as I was when I received the letter from Rob Lucas about the $5,750,000 that we've gained for the continuation of the project for McGill Village. And I just wanted to formally thank, I know I sent an email to the CEO, but I wanted to formally thank all the staff who were involved in that application, because you had a lot of criteria that you had to prove and comply with. So I really appreciate all the work that you did to get that money, and we will really look forward. I think we have a meeting about McGill Village in a couple of weeks' time up at the hotel. Is it next week? Whatever. Up at the tower. So I think that progression will be fantastic as a result of getting that money. I had a chat with Campbelltown Mayor as well today, and she's very happy and no problem at all. But of course, they got a couple of $1 million to build a massive playground at Thornton Park, so they're super happy. Yes, Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Your Worship. Given this is this point in the meeting, if I can just bring to the attention of the Chamber, a lot might not know, but I've actually been on a board called Carpe Diem Trust for the last, well, since 2004 actually, when I was chair of the City of Burnside's Youth Advisory Committee. I got appointed to Carpe Diem Trust, which was it's a trust set up by the Rotary Club of Burnside and allocated funding to youth in our area. At our last committee meeting, we decided to wind up for a number of reasons, but since I've been part of that committee and board and trust, we've allocated over $100,000 to over almost 100 individuals in our area, and I just thought it's the right time to acknowledge the work that the Rotary Club of Burnside certainly have done in raising that money and allocating it back to young people in our area to better serve their careers and their studies. It's funded people, musicians, sports stars, engineers, doctors, scientists to go to Harvard, to Oxford, to absolute incredible tours of Europe, to building rainwater tanks in impoverished countries using their engineering skills. So I just wanted to take that time to acknowledge the work that they've done, and I might bring a motion to send them a letter of thanks from the City of Burnside at the next meeting.
I think that's really important that we recognise the work that the Rotary have been doing, and also take this opportunity to thank you for your participation in that trust over a lengthy period of time as well. Thank you, Councillor Cornish. Councillor Carbone.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to quickly apologise. The last council meeting I was not well, and upon reflection I probably shouldn't have come, but I did have my COVID test, so I was fine. There was no risk of anything, but I suppose my passion got in the way. So I know a few people were a bit concerned about catching something from me last meeting, and I just wanted to apologise for that.
Thank you, Councillor Carbone. Any other business? I will declare the meeting over at 10:21 p.m. And thank you for all of your attendance.